Great. So talking about knowledge sharing and building a culture of knowledge sharing. It's an interesting topic in that we can derive some two very obvious conclusions. One is it's very obvious at the organizational or the company level that the leadership understands the benefits of having everybody share their knowledge, combine everything, and to use that knowledge to better the objectives of the organization. It's equally obvious at the individual level that I should not give away my knowledge, which makes me valuable to the organization, protects my job and my future. The challenge, of course, is convincing both parties that change in mentality is necessary in a hyper-competitive global market, and that both parties may benefit. What I want to give was an example with an individual who keeps knowledge locked in his head and uses it to increase his importance in the organization. And people have to come to him for this knowledge, and for a while it works. His stature builds, he's irreplaceable. The problem is that in this organization, you have a stagnation of ideas, and obviously if it's working with this person, there's probably many others, and this is the culture. Ideas are not being shared. And so certainly the organization starts to become less and less competitive, which creates a problem when you have better, well-organized competition that come in and do share knowledge. And this also leaves you vulnerable, for example, to the potential of a potentially highly disruptive technology coming in and wiping out your business model entirely. So again, what is really important here to consider is that to compete in a hyper-competitive world and to confront a massive shift in processes, technologies, and possibilities is we have to, as an organization, come together and understand that in a sense we're all in it together. And unfortunately, I know this doesn't translate so well in Romanian, but as Ben Franklin said at the signing of the Declaration of Independence, we must all hang together, or assuredly we shall all hang separately. If we could twist that for just a moment, for our purposes, we could perhaps say everybody sharing knowledge is more fun than everybody looking for a new job, or perhaps looking for a new company to work for that functions. Or from a positive perspective, if we share knowledge, we will all benefit with more opportunities and financial rewards as an organization. So in a sense, it's giving away a short-term opportunity to be involved with a strong organization. At the end of the day, even if you're able to move on to the next company, you still have the legacy of the company you left. And what I want to do is talk about a foundation that's necessary, that has to be built in order to develop within the workforce, within the entire organization, a foundation of which to build knowledge sharing. And a part of that, of course, is trust. You must have trust between the employees, between the management, and also throughout that the organization is generally perceived to be a place that they should invest their time, energy, and their knowledge. And another thing is what I call the basics, and this is basic company management. And in that could be a fair and decent compensation system, could be performance management, adequate training for the employees, taking care of the health and safety of your workers. I mean, some very basic things that are by no means easy. I mean, it's a constant struggle to implement these good policies. But at the same time, it's very important. And I think even if you're not there where everything is perfectly in line, it's important that at least the employees of the organization see that you're on the right track to making improvements, because they care more about the direction of where it's going in the long run. And also, an enthusiasm for the future in that company is necessary. If the employees and the different associates of your company don't have that enthusiasm, then it will be very difficult to create a culture of knowledge sharing. Just wanted to share a real-life experience for some of my prior work. I worked on a project to increase knowledge sharing across, it was basically a 500-person practice group of technology consultants. And in this, the idea was to facilitate the sharing of methodologies, tools, and lessons learned. And what that means in not the consulting language was that we had documentation that had to be done at the beginning of each project. You had a considerable amount of documentation to collect information and to track information as well. And this process tended to get repeated for every time you started a new project, just because they started at different times. You had a lot to worry about, so you weren't able to share knowledge. So we wanted to take an outside or an external look and put the process together to help knowledge be shared. What documentation could be reused from this process for other projects? And in short, to eliminate the need to create things from the beginning. So what are the positives? We had a company that had very much a get-it-done mentality. They're very seasoned individuals, and they like to succeed. They like to have successful projects. They were also very capable individuals who enjoyed their work. They also had all the technology you could ask for. This was around 1999, year 2000. And it was a technology company, so they could get what they wanted as far as technology platforms. Of course, this was 1999, so some of the things that Sarah had shown were not yet available. What were the negatives? As I talked about the importance of having trust in an organization, it was a period right after the tech crash when people were losing their jobs, not necessarily just at this consultancy, but everywhere. And what I think, while it was a negative, in a sense it also had a little bit of a positive in that I think the company did a very good job at managing the process in that the workers didn't feel that it was very unfair. They understood what the position the company was in. They truly felt that if they did lose their job, it was unavoidable and that they were well taken care of. And I think this certainly contributed to the success of the future knowledge sharing project. There were also the time challenges, but this is, of course, normal for any company that moves very quickly. So what did we do? We made it visible. We made it very likely that people would see your work in the project. They would get to see the documentation. Your boss would see it. Your colleagues would just get to see the work that you do. And with the idea being, the more people that get to see this, the more encouraged you'd be to submit it. We also put it in your performance goals. So you would be compensated on and evaluated on the quality of the knowledge that you put forward, but also your willingness to participate in giving knowledge to others. We also made it easy. And making it easy, we had separate teams that basically went out to a project and would facilitate collecting that knowledge so the project team would not have to worry about it. Because the project team, of course, was dealing with a client. They were 100% focused on the efforts with that client and were not able or had very limited capacity to do a lot of outside work. So we basically collected the knowledge for them, and they were very appreciative, and I think it also sped things up. So what did we learn? We learned that it was demand, not supply. And what I mean by that is we had a repository of information, and this had a collection of all the knowledge we've gathered. But what remained as the most popular method of collecting information was an email, good old email, sent out to a mail list, and which was the process before we began. So when people would get in trouble, they would send an email to the entire mail list and say, I need a document XYZ. So we determined it was very demand-based still. It wasn't that you had a supply of information. What drove the process was really what they needed at the time. We also realized that consultants were not as really willing as you might think to share knowledge. We thought they would be always interested in the next idea, so they didn't care about their last idea, and that they would move forward. But they were not, and in a sense we got a little bit less response, but what I will say is even with this less response, there's a small amount of contribution, but it has significant benefits. We saw an amazing amount of benefits. Benefit was future sales efforts, value to clients, referrals, and what this meant was we had this amazing stock of documentation now. When you go out to show a client, you could show them that the project is ready to go. We could step foot onto your organization and start the project. So that was a very big benefit to a client who could see that they didn't have to wait around while you got ready for them. It also provided value to the client in that the need to generate all of this documentation no longer existed. You could focus right in on what was their problem, what was their industry, what did they need to do, and that had obvious benefits. Also, people began to work in ways that would make it easier to contribute knowledge to that effort. We'll talk about the return on investment in just a moment. But where are some recommendations then? First, I think recommendations and use at the highest level of the organization to promote knowledge sharing is very important. If the top leadership of the company is recognizing and participating in the knowledge sharing, it's certainly going to be a better effort. Just an email sent in support anytime knowledge is contributed, I think, has an effect. I use the example, if you know your boss is looking at an expense report of a colleague, it sends a very clear signal to the organization that you better think about your expense reports. And the same thing works positively in knowledge sharing, if the boss takes a look at some knowledge that's contributed. Make it easy to find and make it easy to contribute knowledge. And again, as Sarah had shown in her demonstration of the different tools, there's a lot of things there that can facilitate that process. Work the knowledge sharing into your performance goals. It's very important. We have this at our organization now. Everyone is evaluating the quality of acknowledgement and the willingness to participate in helping others as they need help. Also relying on performance management, goals and objectives, and rather than monitoring the workforce. First, I think trying to monitor the workforce and make sure it's very difficult. There's no way to do it. But relying on performance management, it shows you trust your organization, and it builds. It shows you trust your people, and it builds trust in your organization. So two very helpful things for knowledge management. A quick one: change your physical space. Perhaps just changing the arrangement of your office. Does it facilitate knowledge sharing, or does it facilitate working alone? It's something to consider. And this was the subject of our last conference, Innovative Workplace, which is available on the website if you'd like to view it. Knowledge has a short shelf life. Hurry up and use it. We noticed in a lot of these projects that by the time we used it, or by the time that people would come around to some of the knowledge, it would be outdated. There would be something out there that was better, and we carefully wrote up something that was no longer very important. So I think there's a balance between really cleaning up what you plan to contribute back to the organization and also just getting something out there that's usable. Also, globalizing companies cannot rely on face-to-face networks is obvious. So thinking of ways to collaborate and share knowledge virtually is very important. Find a critical need to build support in your organization. If you can find one of the most critical activities and focus your knowledge sharing efforts on that, even when you start to see just the beginning benefits, they will be very highly visible and help to build support for future initiatives. Also consider customer feedback. It's a very important one. Obviously, customers are most critical thing to a business, and they tend to experience the same problem and can often have the same solution. It's an excellent place for your persons to share knowledge. Also allows the customer to influence future design, and we talked earlier about working on co-design. Also, another recommendation is keep going with your knowledge sharing. If there is a slow initial response, it will take time, but you will see results. And just as I mentioned Thomas Friedman as an excellent example of someone who can clarify very complex topics, Robert Buckman is the chairman of Buckman Laboratories and a leader in knowledge management. And Robert Buckman wrote a great book called Building a Knowledge-Driven Organization. In it, he says, understand it's a journey, not a project. He also recommends not to worry about return on investment. As I mentioned, I'd get back to that. And he compares worrying about return on investment as a child in a car constantly asking, are we there yet? Perhaps you should look and see and give it time and work on the culture. And I would suggest for those compelled to always have a return on investment, perhaps they could examine the return on investment of other projects that are now prospering in a new knowledge-sharing environment. And just to leave you with one quote, this was from Brooke Manfield and Nathaniel Foote, wrote an article that was quoted in Mr. Buckman's book, Strategy as If Knowledge Matters. Executing knowledge strategy is not about managing knowledge, it's about nurturing people with knowledge. I think it's very important. Well, thank you. And we'll turn this over to David Brown, who will discuss about mobile workers and productivity.